Next is John Stivers, who is owner of the Fire Ignition Resources, LLC. John teaches the Alabama Certified Burn Management Program and the Certified Prescribed Fire Manager in Alabama and Georgia. He is a governing board member of the Coalition of Prescribed Fire Councils and a member of Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi Prescribed Fire Council. A couple of his mottos I found are, if fire is probably not worth managing. And another one is prescribed fire is a safe way to apply a natural process, ensure ecosystem health, and reduce wildfire risk. It's all yours, John. Take it away.
All right, thank you. Let me make sure I can do this here. All right, y'all seen my screen and not me?
Still see you there, John.
Still see me, okay. What have I done wrong? Yeah, hang on.
Good to go now.
All right, here we go. Thank you. Hey, it's a pleasure to speak with y'all. I wanted to share this topic, of course, burning in stands other than longleaf. And the key is opportunities overlooked. Often burners kind of get used to doing things a certain way, and they really miss a lot of opportunities to do things differently that are really science-based, and they minimize your risk of an auto. So that's kind of what I wanted to share. Obviously, we need more burning, not less, done these days to kind of catch up. And some of these opportunities that people overlook is those are burners. And in the middle, you see the fox. And by doing things differently that others don't do, often we're kind of viewed with confusion, but it makes perfect sense science-wise. And it's, again, it's a way to get more done, and get it done safely. You know, we don't need to take our foot off the gas as we continue to keep fire in a 1 to 2 year return interval and stands for maintenance. That's important. Don't ignore that, but we need to break new ground as well. So this is just a quick schematic. Of course, I want to focus on North Georgia, but when you think about longleaf, you know, it gets a lot of attention, but so many other species don't get a lot of love in terms of research and just in general. And shortleaf is one of them. You know, shortleaf has the biggest range compared to anything. I mean, it covers like over 200 million acres of land in 22 states, you know, which is like 7 times of what the longleaf is. So currently. So shortleaf, upland hardwood, mixed stands, all of those you can see that's kind of what the majority of the landscape is. Here's just a few fun facts. I'm not going to bore you with numbers, but in Georgia, you know, there's 37 million acres total. 25 million acres of that's forest land. Georgia is 2/3 forested. Over half of that's hardwood forest type. Obviously, a lot of softwood that's mainly pine plantations. So when you look at loblolly, shortleaf, oak, hickory, I mean, that makes up almost 14 million acres. And again, slash and longleaf are important, but that's like less than 4 million acres. So just on the surface, and I know it's different in North Georgia, a little bit less pine, more hardwood, but all of these are fire-adapted, fire-dependent systems. They're just not longleaf. But this pine, hardwood, hardwood, pine type, particularly mixed stands, that's what I want to focus on. And again, it's very impressive. Georgia annually applies over 1.1 million acres of prescribed fire. Of course, that's all categories, but almost 900,000 of that's silviculture. So that's pretty impressive, but it's still not, you know, what it could be. So again, don't stop burning, keep burning. The stands are in good condition, but look for opportunities to break new ground. In North Georgia, this is Georgia statewide, you know, over 56% of that's in IPF owners. As you go up in North Georgia, these numbers change a little bit, like the Chattahoochee-Oconee National Forest, that's, you know, 860 some odd thousand acres of land. So there's a little more public land in northwest Georgia than this screen shows, but this is statewide in Georgia. So even though everybody's doing all they can, if we want to see any increases, it's really going to need to come from non-industrial private landowners. Oops, going the wrong way here. We're very familiar with all of the reasons to burn, and often there's dual benefits. You can be burning for, you know, hazard fuel reduction, but you're going to get some timber stand improvement or maybe some wildlife habitat improvement, whether it's for bobwhite quail, white-tailed deer, eastern wild turkey. Other things, again, are important. Gopher tortoise, RCW, even American chaff seed. Fire a lot in insect and disease control. And this root rot, brown spot, even as a tactic for southern pine suppression. So again, there's a lot of reasons to burn. And any fire is better than no fire. We're also familiar with these 9 barriers that are shared across the country from the left coast to the east. These are reasons why there's barriers to burning, and most of them are real, but behind each of these problems present opportunities. So capacity is a big one. There's just not enough trained personnel and or equipment. Weather's a biggie, but it's not as big of a deal as people try and make it. Air quality. So again, you can see the list. There's a lot of reasons why burning is difficult, but you know what? It doesn't mean we stop. You don't punt on second down. You find ways, and you give Caesar what's Caesar's, of course, but you find ways of getting things done. So now I'm going to start to talk a little bit about these opportunities, because often this is what people feel like at the end of the day. But if you apply the science, think this through, look for all these opportunities, invoke contingencies and plans, you're not going to look like a whooped rooster at the end of the day. Often burners feel like this because they kind of self-inflicted things by not considering all of these opportunities to minimize the risk of having a problem. All right. I wanted to share this quickly because it sets the stage for these opportunities. Most people probably heard of this, but this fits the whole planet, basically. It's called historic fire regimes. Now, there's 5 buckets. Now, the most common one is fire regime 1. And that's basically defined as a 0 to 35-year return interval. Now, 35 years is a long time, but remember, this fits the whole plan. In the Southeast, our short return intervals are typically probably more like 0 to 5. But the way the Lord made these systems to function is they're supposed to burn frequently. They're supposed to burn with low intensity. They're not supposed to be ripping and tearing. These are like, for southern yellow pine systems, mixed stands, pine, hardwood pine. So that's how most of the Southeast landscape historically should be. This is the natural way. Burns frequently, but low severity. Now, this 35-year return is a long time, but you could take, say, in the Southwest, ponderosa pine, which is similar to our long needle pine. When they get a burn out there, it's also this fire regime 1. Once that system burns, it's basically asbestos for about 10 years. And the length of benefit might be 15, 20, 25 years due to the climate. And so that's why it's this broad breakpoint, 0 to 35. The next one is called stand replacement. Again, fire regime 2, fairly frequent, but when it burns, it goes. And these are typically for grass systems. And what's called stand replacement, it just means everything above ground is going to be consumed. So frost killed grass systems, they burn like they're supposed to, whether it's sawgrass, it could be a wiregrass, it could be our blue stems, thinking about what's in our backyard. So when you're burning those types of systems, even savannas, whether it's pine or oak savanna, that's a fire regime 2. That's how it's supposed to burn, frequently consuming most of those grass forb systems. The third one is mixed severity. That's pretty common in swamp systems. That's the way they're supposed to burn. 35 to 100 year is the normal return interval. And when they go from high intensity fires to sections that won't burn at all and something in between, this mixed severity. Okefenokee the classic. Not all of it rips and tears with stand replacement. It's kind of a mixed bag. The fourth one is also stand replacement, 35 to 100 year return interval. Some good southern examples are sand pine, table mountain pine in the mountains. Some swamp systems like tie. When they go, and their normal schedule is 35 to 100 years, they go. It takes everything, and that's the way it's supposed to function. And so when swamp systems burn high intensity or sand pine, table mountain, they're doing what they're supposed to do. So that's the first step, is just realize what bucket these systems naturally fall in. And most of what we have available to burn is fire regime 1 and 2. We have a little bit of the other stuff, but for the most part, that's where the majority is. All right, so now this is just a suggestion. You can make it what you want. To make it fit, when we burn longleaf systems, and it doesn't matter because again, I live up around Talladega, we have longleaf pine, whether it's in the hills or down in the flatwoods, a 1 to 2 year return interval is kind of where it needs to be. That's kind of the natural order. Loblolly systems, 2 to 3, shortleaf 2 to 4, you can see these others. As you get up into the upland hardwood, which again, demand and require fire, fire's been part of that landscape for millions or tens of thousands of years, that's a little bit longer, 5 to 8 year return interval. But it's still fire regime 1, frequent, low intensity fire. So as you write your prescriptions and make your plans, just like at Berry College, the return intervals, you can make it anything you want, but it's kind of unnatural to have a 5 to 15 year return interval in longleaf. It just doesn't fit with the way it's designed to go. So you can tweak these a little bit. But based on 40 years of experience, and I'm not saying it has to be this is what I've observed by doing this for a long time. All right, now here's the next thing that's going to make you think, helps you clue in on these opportunities. Refer to condition class. Condition class can either be a 1, 2, or 3, and it's basically what's the relative risk of losing a key component of an ecosystem. For example, condition class 1 is a low risk. If you're burning a system and you miss a treatment of fire due to weather or whatever, 2 years later, does that move the needle? Is it still a low risk of losing that component? So the way you consider this is you focus on that resource objective or the purpose of the burn. Then you compare it against these historic fire regimes to see what the consequences are if you miss a system. Now I'm going to show a couple of pictures. For example, this is just general run-of-the-mill CRP 20-year-old loblolly. It's been thinned once, and that's been burned fairly frequent. We burn this every other year. Now this stand, for example, if you're a key component of the ecosystem, and you can make it anything you want. But let's just look at what's there. It's a lot of blue stems. So right now, that's a low risk. If I miss one treatment of fire, it's still going to be a fairly open overstory in a grass system. But if I let that go 3 or 4 years without fire, that blue stem component is going to start to wink out. As the canopy increases in basal area, less sunlight to the ground, less fire, no fire, loblolly pine is going to dominate that understory. It'll seed in and all that grass will go away. So that's how you say this is currently a low risk or it's a condition class 1. And it kind of helps you stay focused that don't turn your back on that. If you let that go, 1 or 2 more missed entries, it's not going to look like that. There we go. Here's another one. It's just natural timber. Say bobwhite quail is your key component of the ecosystem. We burn that on a 2 year return interval, and that's mainly shortleaf pine overstory. We know what would happen if you let that go one time. The shortleaf seedlings will get a leg hold, and you're not going to control shortleaf with fire. It sprouts. It loves fire as well. But if you miss 1 or 2 burns, the quail, that's your metric, it's going to wink out or it's going to decline. So keeping fire in those stands like that, that's a condition class 1 is important. Here's another one, and I think this could fit the mountains of North Georgia. Being from Arkansas originally, up in the Ozarks, I mean, we have shortleaf pine and hardwood. Now, this is in Alabama. This is on some property that I look after for clients, and we did a fuel wooding thing. That's not possible everywhere, but we employed this treatment where we cut about 40 to 50 tons of bushes per acre, chipped it up, blew it in the van, and sold it for 50 cents a ton. We didn't do it to make money. We did it to keep that understory open because it was so shaded. This picture of shortleaf and upland hardwood is pretty nice right now. You could whack a deer from 200 yards with a rifle and it's going to look different in the summer. But here's what we really wanted. We wanted to make that habitat even better for deer and turkey. So we fuel wooded it. These are, again, opportunities overlooked. Keep fire in those stands. Get rid of that mid-story, whether it's by a non-commercial or commercial means, and then put the fire to it. Then within a couple of years, this is what it looks like. You, through the seed bank, you're going to get this release of the blue stems. And this is, again, fire regime 1, frequent low intensity fire. Yes, even in hardwood, upland oak, hickory, micronut, post oak, stuff that has thick bark. Low intensity where you're not hurting the quality. but you're encouraging that weedy 4B grassy understory. Now we have beautiful oak savanna, just like pine savanna, and that's much more beneficial aesthetically as well as deer and turkey. So again, it's just a way of looking at that fire regime, picking a condition class, and then staying on schedule with your treatments to get what you want. Now I wanted to throw this out just to walk you through a mental gymnastic. Imagine, we all can picture this, a 10-year-old loblolly pine plantation, 80 acres, not real big, packed with trees, 600 trees per acre. They're 40 feet tall, 5-inch DBH. That's about 85 basal area. No history of fire since the site prep. So we can all conjure up that image. It's still a historic fire regime 1. It's supposed to be a frequent low intensity burn. Right now it's a condition class 2. It could have been burned at age 5, and I'll talk about that in a minute, based on its size. So it's already missed 3 treatments of fire. Now it's a plantation. It's not gone yet, but again, we want to get fire in these systems as soon as possible. So it's a condition class 2. It's going to become a 3 if you let it go much longer. You'll have a high risk of losing that component, which will be the stand itself. So that first burn, your resource objective, purpose of the burn is simple. It's just hazard fuel reduction. I want to minimize scorch. This is a packed in plantation. So I'm going to do it in the daytime. And then here's your fire objectives. Again, once you come up with your resource objective, now you write your parameters. How can I pull this burn off and meet my objectives, knowing it's a condition class 2? It's a little tough of a burn. I know it's a litter model. I want to burn it January, February. I want to burn it when the KBDI is, say below 300, good soil moisture. I want cool air, low humidity, fuel moistures, etc. You can read all of this. And as you write your prescription, by looking at it this way, it teases out all of those parameters. Then when you go implement the burn on the right day, it'll land right where you want it to. So again, that's one example. Another one, a 200-acre stand that's been thinned 3 years ago. You got a well-stocked stand. It's fairly open now, but you have unleashed 3,500 trees per acre of sweet gum and oak brush that's 20 feet tall, 2 inches in diameter. The last burn was 3 years ago. So again, think about these buckets. It's a historic fire regime 1, supposed to be frequent low intensity. It's a condition class 2, means it's fixing to lose a key component of that system. It doesn't have the grasses and the weeds and the forbs, if that's your metric. So your objective is, I want to punish some hardwood. I want to top kill this dense overstory, and I want to see warm season grasses start to come in. So it's timber stand improvement. You want to minimize your scorch, but it's okay if you brown up 25% of the canopy. That's going to happen. So your fire objectives, how do I meet that resource objective? Well, if you're trying to punish hardwood that's that big, you've got to think about growing season fire. So you're looking at, probably mid-June. You want a KBDI that's maybe higher, 450 or less. You want temperatures that's up to 95 degrees. The RH is going to be higher because that's what it is that time of the year. So if you haven't done much growing season burns, it's a very effective way of top killing hardwood on a slow moving fire. Low flame length, low rate of spread, but it's really going to be hard on that brush. So again, once you do that, then your next prescription, even before you've done this one, you want to start burning again within 2 years, sometime between June and October. So these 2 examples is just to kind of help you think outside the box. Look at your project, think about what fire regime it falls in, and it's going to be a 1 for the most part. What's the condition class? What are you trying to do? And then your prescription parameters, they just kind of fall out, okay? Well, all right, now into the opportunities. That's mainly what we're here for. Here's things a lot of people don't think about. And I'm telling you, I've done this 40 years and I think it'll help you. Take advantage of all burn windows, because you know what? They happen 12 months out of the year. I mean, it's fine. You want to burn in February, March, that's fine, but there's 12 months out of the year. Here's a biggie. Sequence your treatments. Fire often is not the first thing you need to do, okay? Just like that hardwood stand. I could have burned that thing as long as the leaf hit the ground, and it wouldn't have changed that dense mid-story component. So we employed a fuel wooding tactic. So we didn't use fire. We went in there with a mechanical commercial operation. and then we put fire in there. Okay, another one, burn pre-emergeable stands as soon as possible. This is a big one. Most people don't even think about it. If you're not burning your longleaf by age 2, folks, you're missing it. You need to be putting fire in shortleaf. This is probably going to cause heresy amongst people. But again, being an Archie, working in shortleaf pine as a silviculture for a long time, shortleaf demands fire by age 3 or 4. Okay, don't take my word for it, but that's nature. Loblolly and slash can be and should be burned. Once those trees, saplings, it doesn't matter what age they are, but when those trees get 15 feet tall, their ground line diameter 3 inches in diameter, they're ready to go. They could be burned. Burn during the growing season. Again, you can look at some of these others. I don't want to run out of time here, but the last one that's a biggie, black in boundaries ahead of the main event. That way you can black in miles and miles of fire line. You're not burning the whole unit. You're blacking in all of that perimeter. So on a good burn day, you don't spend much time patrolling and holding line. So again, sequencing your treatments, using timber sales, chemicals, whatever, ahead of the fire can be a fast way of getting where you need to be. Sometimes you have to use non-fire methods. Might be herbicide. If it's not commercial, you might have to resort to these guys. Better living through chemistry, fly it on. Again, burning young stands on marginal days. That's just some loblolly, and it's a low flame length on a high humidity day. It's going to creep right through that stand, meet the objective of hazardous fuel reduction. I'm going to burn that so Bubba don't light me up on the bad day. So how many people would, wouldn't even thought about burning the stand that young? It's very easy and safe to do under the right conditions. All right, a backing fire. Again, these young plantations, backing fires in these first burns are underutilized. It's easy. It's the easiest thing you can do. You may not get a lot of acres, but you can put a fire through a stand like that. That thing's 5 years old, and the flame lengths, are less than 2 feet. So you're not going to hurt a stand like that. Here's another one again that may be tougher in Georgia, but in Alabama, we do a lot of burning at night, and we do our smoke screening and all of that, but don't miss that opportunity to burn at night. All right, a lot of opportunities to consider. Again, a burning pile separate from surrounding fuels. Supply the KBDI thresholds wisely so you don't light that duff off and get delayed mortality. So here's just a bunch of other things you can easily do. All right, how much time do I have?
You're good.
Okay. Now, smoke management, that's a biggie. I'm not ignoring that. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time. But if you think about this, if you burn concentrations of fuels instead of just huge whopping areas, you'll minimize your smoke. That's normally the thing that's going to inconvenience the public and possibly cause your phone to ring. Again, mechanical removal, burning mosaics, using herbicide, converting fuel types, say from Southern Rough, palmetto, gallberry wire, tie to these wiregrass, grass forb systems are great. Understanding KBDI, that'll be the biggest thing that'll keep you out of trouble. Because if your KBDI gets too dry, you're going to ignite a lot of fuels you don't want to light, and they're going to burn with smoldering smoke, and that's a problem. Again, little metrics like fuel moisture, when it gets below 6%, you're probably going to have problems holding the burn. Probability of ignition gets over 60%, you're going to have more fuels consumed, more smoke. So again, here's how you kind of dial that down. Just some options, some considerations. Burn before rainfall event, free mop up. Burn before large activity fuels become available. We know that from, say, Hurricane Michael. It laid down a lot of timber, but if you let those fuels become available, now you got a real problem. Again, use backing fires when possible. Use aerial ignition, mass ignition, light off big areas quickly, get your smoke up and gone. Burn with higher dispersion index. All of these things are very, very doable if you just think about it. Plan it, implement those, and you'll have a good day. Remember, this is one of my favorite sayings that I heard when I was a little fella. It's not hard to be wise. Just think of something stupid, and then don't do that. And then you'll have the wisdom of Solomon. All right, be smoke wise, because again, smoke's the biggie. Earth first, we'll take care of the other planets later. DeShannon, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and take any questions.
Yeah, does anybody have a question for John? Thanks for that great presentation, John. We really appreciate you reminding us to think outside the box, think about burning at different times of year, different scale. Right now, we don't have any questions. So I will have my little commercial. Pyrodiversity enkindles biodiversity. Think about that.
I like that.
Back to you, Frank.